So, what's your name and where are you from?
Okay, I'm Chris Ramsell. Well, I'm from right here in Beaverton, Oregon, but originally I was from Des Moines, Iowa.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
If you could give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, younger self a piece of advice. Well, don't be scared. Don't be afraid of life. Just take on big challenges. Try to, go for the gusto and think big, and you can do big things if you really set your mind on it. And I've always been the type that I kind of think if you set your goals high, and maybe you won't actually achieve those goals, but you have to be happy with what you did achieve. So if you achieve 50% of that or 75% of that, then you should walk away saying, hey, I accomplished something good.
I like that. Would you say that you were afraid earlier in life, that you were nervous to try new things or dream big?
Yeah, I was kind of lacking confidence when I was younger, and I mean, I still am. Still lacking confidence today, but I'm a little bit better with it,
How do you work on something like that?
Well, I guess like you, like you suggested, you just have to step outside of your comfort zone and try some things,
Absolutely.
So yeah, in a way, you're making me feel a little embarrassed because I'm not really doing so much with it now. I think there was a certain time in my life when I got a PhD in physics, and so that was an example of me going for a high goal and achieve that. Yeah, but in my recent times, I don't know, my interests are a little bit different, and so I haven't gone for such high goals. High goals are difficult. Like I try to build a magnetic rocket, and unfortunately, you just need a lot of people and experts to help you do stuff like that. You run into electronics problems and things like that, programming problems. If you don't have the answers, you get stumped pretty quickly. So,
absolutely.
Hey, my other advice would be go to YouTube. YouTube, man. As one person told me, YouTube is not just for cat videos.
No, it's YouTube University now.
YouTube University.
That's my own. That's my own funny.
Okay,
you can learn anything there.
Okay,
You can learn anything on YouTube.
Yeah.
You got Harvard classes on there. You got anything you need.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, there's literally like PhD guys talking about research in their lab about stem cells and stuff like that, getting up giving lectures in front of a whole bunch of other PhDs and stuff. So yeah, it's definitely not a joke.
Absolutely. Have you ever learned anything from YouTube for your current profession?
Not so much for my profession. I'd say more for my hobbies. My hobby recently has really been, for the past 3 years, I've been really, really focused on health and longevity. My son decided he was going to go to college, and he wanted to go to Oregon State University and go into genetics. And when he was talking about why he wanted to go into genetics, he was motivated by the superheroes, making people, genetically altering people to be better. I thought, oh, that's a little crazy, but wherever you get your motivations, that's great. So yeah, it kind of kicked me off on realizing that I had a lifelong interest in health, and I just decided to take it to more of an extreme. And so now I learn from YouTube all the time, which is why I mentioned the stem cell video.
Absolutely, that's huge. I'm very similar myself.
Oh, yeah?
I love longevity. I love the idea. I want to be a completely functional centenarian.
Oh, okay.
That's a lifelong goal of mine.
Yeah,
So I can empathize. I can relate.
Yeah, if I may say something about that, you probably already agree, but I really think that we're on the precipice of a better understanding of health. Like you go to your average doctor, your average MD today, and you ask them to solve your problem. You got sores on your skin or whatever it is, and they'll ask you to put some cream on it or some drug, but they don't really get to the root cause. But what I see on these YouTube videos and studying a lot of the naturopathic doctors and what they say is that I really think we are coming to a point where we're starting to understand the biochemistry enough. I mean, it's still extremely complicated, and there's a lot of unknowns. But I really think we're starting to understand the biochemistry enough that we're starting to be able to get to that root cause. Like, for example, Dale Bredesen getting to the root causes of Alzheimer's disease, things like that. And I think that medicine is kind of, one person, a video I was listening, or a podcast I was listening to, said grassroots medicine. So I think even though the medical system is kind of on course with insurance companies the way it is, there's another grassroots system which is penetrating upward and telling us, no, hey, if you supplement, take care of yourself, if we do tests and get to the root cause, you might live to 150 or 200 years old.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
I love that. I geek out on that stuff too.
Yeah.
It's highly fascinating. Can you tell me a little bit more about your journey to becoming someone who builds magnetic rockets? How did you find that passion?
Yeah, well, I've always been a person for electronics since the time I was in high school. Yeah, and I took an electronics class back in high school. And then I went to DeVry, and DeVry, for me, it wasn't the right time. I dropped out of DeVry after 3 semesters. But it still, electronics was always eating away at me, digging away at me in there. And so electronics is kind of analog electronics versus digital electronics, right? And so somewhere along the line, I discovered the Arduino board. The Arduino board is a little tiny computer you can buy for about $12. It's really, well, it's fairly simple to program, and you can, and it has little in and out pins, and you can control electronics. So then once I discovered the Arduino board, I realized it got me back into electronics and rediscovering, coils and capacitors and LEDs and all these different things in electronics, because you can kind of build your electronic circuit to be a little more simple and use the Arduino as the brain to control it. And so, yeah, I built a little magnetic rocket, and I finally got my crowning achievement, which is not that great yet, is 2 coils. So there's a magnet which sucks into a first coil, and then the coil has to turn off at just the right time because it lets the magnet fly, right? And then there's a little break the beam sensor that says, okay, the magnet's coming. It senses that the magnet's coming, and then it turns on the second coil. Timing has to be just right. It turns on the second coil, it pulls that magnet in, and once again turns it off and lets it fly. And then it goes into a cardboard box at the top, and it goes boom up into the top of the cardboard box. But what I would love to do someday is really make this much more advanced. I have a lot of concepts in my mind for like a magnetic clutch, basically, which would take a projectile and throw it way high in the air, and it would basically be the beginning of a hybrid rocket. So you would launch with a magnetic launch system, you would launch a rocket up to a certain altitude, and then when the speed is starting to slow down, a rocket would kick into gear and the rocket would take it up the rest of the way. So it could be a lot cheaper way to... Yeah. And the concept behind that is that the electricity and the energy to do it comes from the ground. You don't have to carry that propellant with you. You know what I mean? The magnetic field is all coming from, from a power station here on the Earth.
Sure. Yeah. So working at Intel, does that satiate the thirst or the hunger that you have for the rockets? Because that sounds like I'm not very educated on this topic, so I appreciate you teaching me. But that sounds like a NASA or SpaceX sort of thing. I don't know if Intel does rockets. Do they do they do that sort of thing?
No. Professionally, I just work on a tool called the Alaris tool, which is basically shoots light at a wafer and measures the thickness. But it's one of those discontinuities where you have your interests and whether that can actually be profitable or not, and then you have a job which actually has turned out to be a really good job for me, because it's very technical. It keeps my mind going at all times. It's always challenging. There's always new problems. That tool is like a $2 million. When I say a tool, it's a $2 million big machine. And you can just, it can break down in so many thousands of different ways that you can never get to that there's just always something new for us to, I just solved a problem just the other day that was very, very difficult.
It keeps your mind sharp.
Yeah, it keeps my mind sharp.
That's
exactly.
That's part of the longevity that we were talking about too.
Yeah.
Keeping the mind and the body sharp.
Yeah, good for the brain.
What would your advice be to someone who's trying to find their path, like you found yours? Someone who's struggling to find their path in life.
Okay, that's a little easier. I think the first question was a little more difficult, but this one I think I can ad lib on maybe. It's just you gotta go with what you're interested in. I remember I read a book by Nancy Anderson years and years ago, and the whole message of the book was just focus in on what you're interested in. And then you also have to try out things like go to college, especially if you enjoy education and higher level things like science. I would go to college and test out a couple things. Like for me, it was physics, and I just did really well in physics classes, but I did not do so well in engineering classes. And so those sorts of things, what you do good at, will steer you. So between what you're naturally good at and what you gravitate towards, I think you find something you're interested in.
How would you what would you say to someone who's trying to figure out what they're good at? Or what they enjoy?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I would say is you gotta focus in on what you've always been interested in, and I would suggest going to college and take some science classes.
Love it.
But there's a third ingredient I'd say, which is luck. Yeah, and there's a fourth ingredient. I remember one of my professors said that you want to go into a field which is has not been just completely obliterated by huge, brilliant minds like Einstein. And he said great scientists have already stomped their big feet all over that field. And so you don't want to go into maybe electromagnetism or something that's pretty well understood.
Sure.
But yeah, something new like anyway, biology or genetics would be a great area.
Absolutely. A newer science, something less, a little bit more untapped.
Yeah, exactly. Where there's discoveries yet to be made. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
What's the most important thing for people to understand?
Most important thing to understand. Boy, it kind of gets to the meaning of life. Boy, that's such a big question that I don't really know if I could answer it. I would just say that you kind of have to find your own truth. Some people, their truth might be God, and even though there might be zero evidence of it, they might really, really believe in God, and maybe it really helps them. For me, I don't believe in God. I don't think that there is anybody guiding us. I don't think there's any destiny. I don't think when somebody in a grocery store accidentally gets shot by a mass shooting incident, there's no meaning behind that. It's not like this person was a sinner and they asked for it. Or when a wave from a tsunami comes to the coast of Indonesia and kills 100,000 people, it's not that they were bad people. It's not that God willed this to happen. It's just that it's just coincidence they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And my advice for people would be to accept that the earth and the universe we live in is just kind of based on physics, not really any predetermined destiny, and to just accept that and be okay with it, and still make the most of your life, the time that you do have here while you're alive. Yeah.
I love that. That's a great perspective.
That's my perspective. It might be wrong for some other people, but
it's your perspective, so it's right for you. I love that.
Yeah.
What's the story about the hardest lesson you've ever had to learn in life?
Hardest lesson? Oh, geez. I don't know if I really have learned very many hard lessons. I'm such a conservative person and such a careful, low-risk type of person. I mean, I got a speeding ticket for $265, and it was all because I just did a slow and go at an intersection. That's the first thing that comes to mind, but that's not really a very hard lesson. I'm thinking, damn, $265, geez, that was really painful, but looking back on it, it's like, I don't really miss that. I guess maybe one thing I can think of is that I had a girlfriend. I won't even name her, but I think I was a little too loose with my mouth and easy to insult, and kind of chased her away when I'm not saying that we were right for each other, but it was probably my fault that I was too blunt, and actually, let me say, with my kids, I have 3 boys. My middle boy has always been more rambunctious. And so I was pretty hard on him. My oldest boy, he's just an angel. And I hardly ever, probably spanked him once in his entire life. And so after my first boy, I thought, oh, I'm a great dad. Yeah, good job, Chris. You got it down.
This one turned out well.
Yeah, yeah. But later on, when the second one came along, then I realized that, it wasn't really anything to do with my parenting at all. It's just every child is so different. And so, yeah, my second boy is just a lot more rambunctious, and we had a lot more butting heads. He wouldn't accept responsibility for things, and I would really dig in on him, stuff like that. And looking back on it, I wish that I kind of would have just let him be himself. If he was too rambunctious, if he broke my clock or whatever, which he did, just let it slide off me, not get so angry, and let him be himself. Because when he grew up, he did turn into be a good person. He has a lot of goodness in his heart, and I know that now, and I hug him and I love him a lot more now than I ever did. Now he's about 18. Yeah.
That's beautiful. My mom used to tell me that being a parent is the hardest thing in the world, because each kid comes out completely different and there's no instruction manual. You have to figure it out as you go.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, they are so different. Yeah, I have a blonde and a dark hair, a brunette, and a redhead. 3 boys.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's very unique.
Yeah. How did that happen? Yeah.
Unique genes.
Yeah.
How would you advise someone to be happy in life?
How to be happy in life? Yeah, boy, that's tough because I really think happiness, a lot of it just comes from within. But you almost kind of need to just control yourself to be able to just relax and accept life for what it is. And yeah, I mean, you could pursue goals, and you could make sure you are really diligent about your health, and you exercise and things like that. And there's probably a lot of you probably could get into a lot of things about supplements or nootropics and trying to control the brain, but short of going that extreme, I would say that yeah, you just have to. I'll put it this way: you should value being positive. How about that? I think if you value being positive and realize the value of being positive to to other people, then you will get the feedback. You're positive to other people, therefore there will be more positive back towards you, and it'll create kind of a feedback loop. And I would say that's probably a pretty good way to be happy.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah.
Tell me about the biggest risk you've ever taken in life. I know you said you're pretty conservative, but maybe there's a small risk that you're taking.
Yeah, risk, boy. Yeah, I really don't take many risks. Biggest risk? Maybe going to grad school just because. Well, there was a time I took my parents' car and I flew over a ramp with it. And actually flew the car into the air.
Wow.
When I was a stupid teenager.
Yep.
That was pretty risky. But, car's pretty heavy. It didn't really go off the ground that high. But, yeah, I don't really take a lot of risks. Yeah.
It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
What are the lessons that everyone should learn?
Lessons that everyone should learn. Yeah, I don't know. Not a lot of. I'd say it just kind of comes back to that you have to kind of create your own. I don't want to say create your own reality. Boy, I really want people to be grounded in truth. Because to me, truth trumps all. I don't know if I'm going off a tangent here, but I think that some people, if you said, here's something that I believe, like we'll just take God for an example, and then here's a box over here that says that the real truth, it's a thought experiment. If real truth was contained in that box, would you be willing to give up your belief in order to look in that box and see if it's true or not? And that kind of, in a way, says something about a person, because I don't believe in God, but I value truth so much more that I would gladly give up my belief in God and accept the possibility that, oh yeah, God may be truth, in order to look in that box and really know for sure that I was on the right track for truth. Some people might be the opposite. Some people say, oh, I would not want to look in the box. I want to hold on to what I believe.
Well, that perspective sounds a lot like practicing open-mindedness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
I think that's a very important skill.
Yeah, and I wish I would have thought about that when you said, what should people believe? That's a great one to put on the list, is open-mindedness.
Wonderful.
Yeah, being positive. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you stand for?
Oh, what do I stand for? Yeah.
Other than truth.
Yeah. Well, truth and science. And I'm a really big science guy. I really believe in science. I really believe in, which science kind of is truth in a sense, because you have to do a provable, repeatable experiment. That's what science is. And if science, we learn new things, it's always changing as we learn, right? So that's okay. But I would say also I stand for ethics and empathy, right? Like one thing is that our family, I didn't mention this before, our family is vegan. And that's a really pretty tough subject to talk about with a lot of people, veganism, because, you pretty quickly tread upon, are you going to give up your meat, which we all love meat, right? I love meat too. But our family decided to go vegan, 100% vegan, no eggs, no cheese, no dairy, no nothing, for that. And Yeah, it was a little hard at first, but we did it for the ethics, because when we realized that humans were murdering, 1.6 billion animals per year. And my understanding is that doesn't even count the fish, because the fish are not counted as individuals; they're counted as by the pound. So they don't even know how many fish we we kill on top of that. So, yeah, and it's horrible to think of these animals being stuck in a cage. Like I heard that a chicken, they cram many, many chickens into a small cage, right? Each chicken does not even have one 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper to stand on that area. He has only 2/3 of that area. 2/3 of that, yeah. So he's just crammed right up against his buddies for his entire life. And yeah, no wonder they peck each other, and pigs bite each other's tails off and stuff, because they're frustrated. So yeah, I remember my mom is a farm girl, and I talked to her about going vegan, and she said, those animals have a good life right up until the point where we kill them. And I look back at it and say, no, they don't, Mom. They have a horrible life.
The truth of the matter.
Yeah, the truth of the matter. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Last one I've got for you, okay?
Sure.
What's your message to the world?
Oh, message to the world. Well, I would just say, enjoy your life, pursue the truth, try to have a lot of empathy for other people and for animals, and try to make the world a better place when you unfortunately have to leave it someday.
I love that.
Sure.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
We're all good.
Very nice to meet you, man.
You as well.
That's funny. That's
I appreciate it.
It's almost very therapeutic.
It's kind of fun.
Therapeutic, yeah, to sit down and just let somebody say what you believe. Yeah.
It's kind of fun. When I first started this endeavor, I noticed that how I approach people really makes a big difference in what I say, because a lot of people,
right in the beginning, you talking about approach?
Beginning, when I ask people if they'll help out, because a lot of people don't really. I think a lot of people love to help, but a lot of people are very tentative when it comes to a stranger.
Oh, okay.
And so the way that I have to word it sometimes has to be very. Can you be giving, in a sense, like how helpful can you be in the moment, because I think people truly enjoy helping and giving advice and giving lessons and speaking their voice and their truth, and then once we kind of get going, I think people generally start to really enjoy it.
They open up more.
It is fun.
Yeah.
It is fun to just chat and learn, and I think most people, I don't know if you've ever taught a course or anything, but you'd be really good at
here
it.
And there, yeah.
I think people enjoy that sort of thing. Most people enjoy helping. I was a coach in my past life, and so I enjoy that sort of stuff too. I think it's just in our nature. Yeah,
it's funny you say that, because I have asked myself, why do people put up thousands of videos on YouTube? And I know some of them are trying to make a profit, but I think a lot of them, they'll put a video on, how to fix a toilet or something like that, how to fix a refrigerator, and the guy's not making a lot of money from doing that, And I think exactly. I think he enjoys it, like being able to teach. I think it's just human nature to say, I got this knowledge, I want to convey to other people.
Absolutely, 100%. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll.
Hey, can I say one more thing on your?
Absolutely.
Is it still going?
Yeah. Plop back down.
Just very quickly.
Yeah. Tell me.
This didn't really occur to me before, but in your questions, but I've noticed that a lot of times when you sit down in an airplane next to people, they won't talk to you until you talk to them first, right? I think most people are a little scared, and I've had an expression in my life where I'll say people are kind of like delicate flower petals. Well, I said this to my dad, and my dad had a really great piece of advice. My dad is actually kind of like you. You're very friendly, and and outgoing with people. And my dad made that rule early on in his life that he's just going to say hi to everybody that he crosses his path. And my dad told me that when you sit down in an airplane, a good piece of advice is that you have to sit down and you start talking to them right away. Because if you wait for 10 minutes and then you try to bring up something, you've been flying for a while, then you try to bring up, what are you reading? Then it feels uncomfortable.
It feels awkward.
Yeah, it feels awkward. So you're talking about approaching people, but yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you just gotta,
like biting the bullet in a sense.
Yeah, you just take it on right in the very beginning, and then it doesn't seem awkward.
It's true. I love that. Yeah. I when I went to university, I made it a goal of mine to talk to as many people as possible, because I wanted college to be an experience. I wanted it to be not only class. I wanted it to be the networking aspect, but like build a community, be friends, get outside of your comfort zone, and shake as many hands as possible.
Huh.
And I also,
oh, that's a great attitude.
well, I appreciate
Jeez,
that.
yeah.
I appreciate it. I mean, people are kind of what makes the world go around, and your community and your network and who you know and your relationships are so valuable and precious. And I went into my job the same way. I used to work at Nike, and when I started working there, I said, I'm going to do everything I can to shake as many hands as possible, because here, even more importantly than in college, it's even more important here to network, and to have a good impression and to make a good impression, etc. And I tried my best. I said I want to meet everybody. Not going to happen, but I tried my best, and you know, it's paid off well. Where the more people you know, I think the better off you're going to be. Kind of like your airplane example. Yeah. Where you just talk to somebody, you learn. Yeah. And that's kind of the benefit of this. Yeah, it's amazing. The people, when I start talking to people on an airplane, invariably they always open up and they really start talking, and you know, which is, I guess, what you've experienced too, right? Yeah. And I find that they have an incredible amount of knowledge. You know, there was just things that people told me about, like a guy that worked in a flying around the country to help different television stations uninstall their analog equipment and switch over to digital equipment, and told me all about how the digital equipment works. It's like, wow. Yeah, and that's exactly the inspiration for this. Is everybody, that was such a random person, just sitting next to a random person, average Joe, on the plane, but that one person can share so many beautiful things. It's the same idea. This is my airplane. I think everybody has something that